Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
Scotiabank is defending its decision to exit some markets in the region, even as it insisted that the Caribbean is very important to its overall operations. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Wednesday, November 28. From the CMC News Centre in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. At a media briefing in Trinidad on Wednesday, Scotiabank's Senior Vice President and Head of the Caribbean South and East, Stephen Bagnaral, said the bank was refocusing on the markets with size and scale, adding that it will still be servicing 90% of the Caribbean.
This is really a story of size and scale. We are committed to Trinidad and we are committed to the Caribbean. Even after this transaction is closed, we will still be servicing 1.5 million customers, have 7,700 employees servicing over 90% of the Caribbean. This is really about size and scale and making sure we concentrate on those markets that are core and have the size and scale.
On Tuesday, the Trinidad-based Republic Financial Holdings Limited, the RFHL, announced that it had entered into an agreement to acquire Scotiabank's banking operations in 9 Caribbean countries. The statement said that the banks being acquired are located in Guyana, Saint Martin, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It said that the purchase price is $123 million US. There were immediate responses from the governments of Antigua and Barbuda and Guyana about the need for Scotia to work within the regulatory framework of the affected territories. Bagnaral says the bank intends to do just that.
So let's be clear that these transactions that we have announced are still subject to regulatory approval. And we will work with all the different governments and regulators to make sure that there's a smooth transition. We are very comfortable and confident that we have been partnering up with very strong partners. In particular, in the countries, in the 9 countries we talk about, Republic is a strong regional player that has intentions to grow, and there's no job loss where they're taking on 100% of the staff in these countries. So we will go through the process. We're a bank, we're a regulated entity, and we'll make sure we go through all the right channels and processes to make sure we do this, by the law and by the regulation.
Antigua and Barbuda and Guyana governments have already expressed some level of unease at the decision, and Prime Minister Gaston Brown Wednesday said his administration had been taken by surprise by the sale. Bagnaral said Scotiabank wants to grow and do so in core markets such as in Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica and the Dominican Republic. The National Council on Drug Abuse, the NCDA, wants state resources to be channeled into interventions that discourage the use of marijuana, particularly among young people in Jamaica. NCDA Executive Director Michael Tucker said this is imperative against the background of what he describes as an emergent worrying development consequent on decriminalization of possession of 2 ounces of the plant. He said a gradual shift was taking place in the risk perception among youth based on decriminalization. He said this would counteract the academic underachievement and engagement in high-risk behavior that are associated with early use of cannabis. Tucker said that national drug prevention efforts have been ongoing but require significant scaling up to incorporate best practices such as sustained interventions across developmental stages that incorporate both families and communities. He said that it was also important to engage the teachers, as they are critical groups who spend significant time with children and adolescents. Over in Guyana, former Housing and Works Minister under the People's Progressive Party government, Ifran Ali, will reappear in court on January 7 next year after he was slapped with several charges related to conspiracy to defraud the Guyana government of more than 170 million Guyanese dollars in the sale of several parcels of land. We get the details in this Newsroom Guyana report.
Former housing minister under the People's Progressive Party government, Irfan Ali, was arrested by a jeepload of police at about 4:30 hours on Wednesday at a residence in Georgetown and transported to the Special Organized Crime Unit SOCU. He was then taken to the Criminal Investigations Department CID, where he was slapped with 19 charges for alleged conspiracy to defraud the government of over $170 million. After spending close to 6 hours at SOCU, he was escorted to the Georgetown Magistrates Court, where he appeared before Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan, who read the charges to him. Ali was not required to plead to the charges, which alleged that between September 2010 and March 2015, he conspired with persons unknown to defraud the government various sums of money by presenting the lots valuing between $5 million to $29.7 million at a cost of $1 million to $5 million. The 19 plots of land sold to former government ministers and associates are located at Sparendam, East Coast Demerara, an area commonly known as Pradoville II. Ali was released on self-bail against the wishes of SOCU prosecutor Patrice Henry, who argued that he be placed on a substantial amount of bail to ensure his return to court. Ali's lawyers, Devendra Kissoon, Priya Manik Chand and Anil Nandlal, argued that their client is not a flight risk and has been cooperating with SOCU from the inception of the investigation over 2 years ago. Referring to the charges as trumped up, the former housing minister argued that he might as well be charged for thousands of house lots sold to citizens at subsidized cost.
I believe firmly in justice. I believe in trusting the Creator and understanding that no wickedness, no form of wickedness, no form of political victimization, no form of this pressure that the government believes they can bring on us, to silence democracy, to silence free speech, to silence an opposition that is exposing them. It would not work. We are solid. This has made me stronger. I am more resolute.
Ali's lawyers, who are also members of the political opposition, believe that the charges were filed as a direct result of the no-confidence motion tabled against the APNU-AFC coalition government.
Still in Guyana, 4 members of the Guyana Fire Service were released on bail after they appeared in a magistrate's court on Wednesday, charged with the theft of items from the Fly Jamaica aircraft that crash-landed at the Chedijagan International Airport earlier this month. We get more in this report, again from the Guyana newsroom.
30-year-old Aubrey Frank of Kurukuru Linden Susdike Highway, 30-year-old Jamie Kingston of Durban Street Lodge, Georgetown, 27-year-old Royden Kennedy of Timeri East Bank Demerara, and 37-year-old Collis Williams of Coverdale East Bank Demerara appeared before Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan on Wednesday. The men were accused of stealing items from passengers and crew members on Fly Jamaica Flight OJ256, which crash-landed at the Chedijagan International Airport earlier this month. Collis Williams was slapped with a simple larceny charge, to which he pleaded not guilty. It is alleged that on November 9th at CJIA, he stole from the Fly Jamaica aircraft 2 cell phones valued $146,000 from Captain Basil Ferguson. He was represented by attorney at law Clyde Ford. Williams was released on $100,000 bail and ordered to attend the Providence Magistrates Court on December 13th. Frank, Kingston, and Kennedy were jointly charged for having in their possession a $20,000 perfume, a $30,000 tablet, a $4,000 Samsung charger, along with a $600 charger on November 9, 2018, to which they pleaded not guilty. They were represented by attorneys at law Clyde Ford, UC Anderson, and George Thomas, respectively, who requested bail. Police prosecutor Gordon Mansfield objected to bail based on the seriousness of the charge and the circumstances under which the crime was committed. However, the Chief Magistrate released the trio on $100,000 bail each and adjourned the case to December 3, 2018. The 4 firemen were interdicted from duties following the allegations. The Guyana Fire Service was the first to respond to the CGIA when the plane crash-landed. After the mop-up, some personal items belonging to crew members and passengers were discovered missing and subsequently found in the possession of the firemen.
Police in Trinidad and Tobago are investigating the abduction of a woman near the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus. According to local reports, the woman has been identified as Maria Das, the commercialization manager at the Office of Institutional Advancement and Internationalization at the university. Senior Superintendent MacDonald Jacob has confirmed the incident. Unconfirmed reports claim that Das was taken by men believed to be dressed in police and army gear. It's alleged that she was bundled into a silver Nissan Tida. At least one entrance to the school has been closed as a result. A memo sent to UWI staff advises that the northern entrance was locked, but 3 others remain accessible to the public. And still to come in Caribbean Newsline, Belize Prime Minister Dean Barrow announces change of plans. We tell you more after the break.
Exceptional fun, meet amazing people, enjoy fantastic food, and rock the nights away to world-class music at the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival. 3 nights of musical entertainment from the 27th to the 29th of June 2019. Book now and save the date. For more information, log on to stkittsmusicfestival.net. St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
Shower in the morning, shower in the evening, or take a fresh at night. Enjoy a warm shower with Solar Dynamics, you'll feel alright. Comfort, safety, temperature guaranteed. Long service, fulfilling your every need. Take a shower in comfort, no more ups with water touch you. Solar Dynamics is the best for you. Save on electricity, be environmentally friendly. Solar Dynamics is the one for you.
Welcome back. The United Democratic Party in Belize has announced a decision to allow Prime Minister Dean Barrow to serve out his term in office, which ends in 2020. Prime Minister Barrow, who has had health challenges earlier in the year, was slated to step down from the leadership of the party early next year. But we've heard that has changed. We get more in this report from Isani Caetano of Belize Channel 5.
During which a new leader of the United Democratic Party would have taken the reins from Prime Minister Dean Barrow has been formally called off. Back in May, the head of cabinet outlined a schedule for his departure from office 1 year before the November 2020 general elections. His early retirement would have paved the way for a subsequent party leader to become Belize's next prime minister, a move which would have given his heir the experience necessary to run the affairs of the country.
The United Democratic Party has agreed a timeline for the leadership succession. We are going to start with constituency conventions in November. Again, we want to give the re-registration process a chance to kick in. And we should be finished with those conventions by end of January, early February of next year. Thereafter, we will hold delegate conventions. We will have our conventions to select the delegates that would attend and vote at our national convention. That process should be finished by March. Thereafter, we will fix a date for the leadership convention. which I imagine would not be later than May.
True to its initial chronology, the UDP has been holding standard-bearer conventions in various constituencies across the country since November 4th. Those included Port Loyola, where Attorney General Michael Perfit was defeated at the polls by former City Councillor Philip Willoughby. A total of 7 conventions have been held as of that date, and, according to the party, the momentum gathered via the large turnout of supporters has prompted a request for the Prime Minister to remain in office.
It was announced on Tuesday that leading Canadian alternative investment management firm Allinvest has agreed to a $536 million takeover of Sagicor Financial Corporation Limited. In the release, Sagicor said it has entered into a definitive arrangement which completion is dependent upon certain conditions and other regulatory approvals, as well as approval by the shareholders of Allinvest and Sagicor. Well, in this week's Newsline Business, we joined TVJ's Andrew Ladle for an in-depth look at what this all means for the company's operations in the region.
Newsline Business is brought to you by Solar Dynamics.
Sagicor is calling it a merger, the likes of which will see all of its 306 million shares being acquired by Canadian-based company Allinvest. Sagicor's Chief Operating Officer Ravi Rambaran says the company is simply going where the money is.
You have 2 companies, one only with cash and one with Sagicor where we have cash and other assets and we have a customer base and we have products. And we bring them together just by virtue of bringing those 2 companies together. That combined entity is stronger. So that a stronger entity provides greater protection to clients.
It's a major shift for Sagicor as we know it, but the company is reporting that there won't be any fundamental changes.
When we look at the new governance in terms of board representation, you will see there will be continuing directors from Sagicor, and there will be new directors from Allinvest. Okay, so this is not an issue of where there is a dominant shareholder in Allinvest taking over Sagicor. Absolutely. In fact, nowhere will you see the word takeover. Nowhere will you see such a word at all, because it is simply not a takeover.
He said the minority shareholders won't be left behind.
The listed entity in Toronto will take their cash, make an offer to the shareholders of Sagicor. So the first 10,000 shares that Sagicor shareholders have will be eligible for cash at $1.75 US, and the remaining shares will be converted into what we call Allinvest shares. But because Allinvest by itself has no operations, there will be just one new entity when that transaction is done, and that one new entity shall be Sagicor.
To complete the deal, Sagicor will delist from the stock exchanges it's listed on here in the Caribbean and will list as a new entity on the Toronto Stock Exchange. The deal is expected to be completed by 2020. In a separate agreement, Sagicor also announced that it will acquire Scotia's life insurance company in Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. That deal includes a provision for Scotia to continue selling its insurance products on behalf of Sagicor for the next 20 years.
Newsline Business was brought to you by Solar Dynamics.
Shower in the morning, shower in the evening, or take a fresh at night. Enjoy a warm shower with Solar Dynamics, you feel alright. Comfort, safety, temperature guaranteed. Long service, fulfilling your every need. Take a shower in comfort, no more ups with water touch you. Solar Dynamics is the best for you. Save on electricity, be environmentally friendly. Solar Dynamics is the one for you.
And still to come in Newsline Sport, Trinidad and Tobago gymnast wins in court but still has questions for the Federation. Stay with us. Sport is next.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Make an emergency communications plan for your family. What to do, where to go, how to reconnect.
We're going to turn it up a notch. Hennessy and FAS 7-Star present Hennessy Artistry on the Beach, Sunday, December 2nd. Daiquiri Beach. Performing live, Spice, Sham, Rankin King, Mole, Stiffy, Justy, and Little Rick. Plus, World DJ, Rigo Suave, King Ghetto, Scott and Mally Fresh, Agency, DJ Raz, Ramon T, Kamal Banki, DJ Puffy, and Jaguar DJ. Hennessy Artistry on the Beach, Sunday, December 2nd, Daiquiri Beach, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Hennessy, never stop, never settle. Drink responsibly.
Trinidad and Tobago's gymnast Thema Williams, who on Monday won a legal matter against the Trinidad and Tobago Gymnastics Federation, is not finished with the sporting body. Williams had taken the TTGF to court over their decision to replace her counterpart Marissa Dick at the 2016 Olympics. Her attorneys are now seeking answers over why no one from the federation reached out to the athlete. TTT's Kent Fuentes tells us more.
Williams was awarded $200,000 in damages by Justice Frank C. Prasad, who ruled that the Gymnastics Federation acted unfairly against her when they chose Marissa Dick instead of her for the test event in April 2016. Her attorney Martin Dealey says they intended to do the following: write the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee to find out why no one contacted Williams to find out her side of the story, similarly the International Gymnastics Federation, and to inquire from the Ministry of Sport if the subvention given to the federation will be used to pay Williams. He says the TTOC has questions to answer.
After Tamer came back from Rio, I think she confirmed in her witness statement that after you came back from Rio, nobody from the TTOC ever called and said, well, what happened down there? What is your side of the story? And we want to know, we want them to confirm that they never got in touch with her and ask them why not. Because there was correspondence in the case in which the lawyers acting at that time for the federation, who switched over to being the lawyers for the individuals, were sending pre-action protocol letters to the TTOC, and we want to know, well, why you just fell in line? Why didn't you ask us something?
They added that though the cost of the proceedings were not cheap, Williams has no legal fees to pay.
And I said, I'm on board if you want me, and that is it. If she has no legal fees, she hasn't put out a penny. As a matter of fact, Reza and Keith have put out the money for the paper, which was quite a lot of paper costs.
Attorney Keith Scotland then inquired about Marissa Dick's contribution to Trinidad and Tobago's gymnastics since Rio.
When I called him on a Saturday, he said, no, I'm going to some place down at the Woodbrook Youth Center to mentor some young gymnasts. I would try to persuade the senior to include in the letter, and we are not casting any aspersions, but just as a question, since the Olympics in 2016, what has that athlete who was chosen done for gymnasts or potential gymnasts in Trinidad and Tobago?
Williams says the ordeal has taught her patience and that she is happy it's all over.
Because, I mean, at 22 years old, it's a kind of a lot to deal with, you know, between having to, you know, come to do like paperwork and all those kinds of things. That was long. And then I became a student last year, and that only added to the, you know, the amount of pressures. But overall, once the message that I want to get out was conveyed, I feel like I'm okay with it. I'm very happy about that.
Switching sport now, Bangladesh have made a forced change to their squad for the second test against West Indies, starting at 11:30 p.m. Thursday Eastern Caribbean time after opener Imrul Keys was ruled out with injury. In the 13-man squad announced Tuesday, all-rounder Ariful Haq was the only new face from the side which trounced West Indies by 64 runs in the opening test Chittagong last weekend. However, Shadman Islam, a 23-year-old left-hander who was already in the squad, is likely to step in for his test debut and partner with the inexperienced Sumaya Sarkar at the top of the order. Bangladesh had already lost their most experienced opener, Timim Iqbal, for the series after he picked up a side strain and was ruled out of the first test. The hosts are eyeing their first ever series victory over West Indies on home soil in the contest set for the Sher Bangla National Stadium. Former West Indies vice-captain Kirk Edwards has been handed the captaincy of Windward Islands Volcanoes for the first-class championship, which starts next week. The 34-year-old, a former Barbados captain who played 17 tests and 16 one-day internationals for West Indies, represented Volcanoes in the regional four-day season for the first time during the last campaign, scoring 313 runs, including 3 half-centuries. He will lead a squad which will be missing marquee opener Devon Smith for the day-night first-round match against four-time reigning champions Guyana Jaguars at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground next week, Thursday. Smith is unavailable due to personal reasons, a Windward board release said. The squad will also be missing several other key players as batsman Sunil Ambrose and fast bowler Shermaine Lewis are on West Indies duty in Bangladesh, while the trio of Obed McCoy, Kesrick Williams and Kyle Mears are all injured. And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
What better way to experience true Dominican culture? Join us for Taste of Dominica 2018 from October 19th to November 30th. Experience diversity in Dominica's cuisine, yeah! From street food to inspired chef creations to herbal teas and, of course, Dominica's famous bush rums. Taste of Dominica is a culinary delight for all foodies. Collect your passports today and get a chance to win amazing prizes. Visit discoverdominica.com for details.
Shower in the morning, shower in the evening, or take a fresh at night. Enjoy a warm shower with solar dynamics, you feel alright. Comfort, safety, temperature guaranteed. Long service, fulfilling your every need. Take a shower in comfort, no more ups with water touch you. Solar dynamics is the best for you. Save on electricity, be environmentally friendly. Solar Dynamics is the one for you.
Again, the major developments of this day, Scotiabank is defending its decision to exit some markets in the region, even as it insists that the Caribbean is very important to its overall operation. And in sport, Trinidad and Tobago gymnast Thema Williams wins in court but still has questions for the Federation. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to KanaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and do have yourselves a good night.